it's New York, so they just had the big Santa run on the weekend, and that's a sight to behold. By the way, the bar crawl with Santas is incredible.
Well, this time of the year in New York, honestly, with Times Square
Yeah,
and Rockefeller Center and the big Christmas tree, it's
right.
New Yorkers are not exactly known as the friendliest people, but I think during the holidays, I think some magic potent hits them because for the most part they're pretty friendly. I don't know if that's what you witnessed or not.
Oh yeah, I feel very comfortable with the people. It's a lot more hustle and bustle than most people are used to, but it's a great place, and I mean the food is great. And one thing that they do in New York that is true is they will get you in and out of a restaurant as fast as possible, so you can really enjoy your meal. But they will have your food to you in 10 minutes. There's no doubt about that, which is
That's because
very
they want
different
to
from
turn
anywhere
those
else that
tables
I've been.
over,
Yeah,
and
absolutely, because there's so many
yes.
people. They absolutely.
Well, I missed it. I'm sorry I missed the coach in the sports show before us today
Uh-huh.
because I know Demario Davis was with everyone, and I have to say, Kerry, of all the Saints players that have come through town in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, I think Demario is just a blessing to this
Oh, I
community.
agree.
He is not only an incredible linebacker and football player, but from the moment he came here, he wanted to do great things in the community, and that's exactly what he's done. And I've had a few communications with him because of the Ninth Ward Stadium and
Yeah.
some projects he's doing in Ninth Ward. But he is just just an incredible asset to New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean he's added so much off the field, Arnie, which is true, and his play on the field for a 12, 13-year veteran is never dropped off. I mean, he's very rarely injured or whatever. He plays at the high level, very smart player and everything, and truly, like he says all the time, a man of God, and he puts his money where his mouth is on that front too.
Absolutely. Well, I talked to a good friend of yours, Carrier,
Hmm.
somebody, maybe not a great friend, but somebody that knows you. You may remember a guy who worked in the Landreau administration by the name of Cam Buckner.
Yeah.
And Cam says he remembers you. Well, Cam is a state lawmaker
Hmm.
in the state of Illinois.
Okay.
And I got a message from him today that he was listening to WBOK while kind of on vacation,
Hmm.
and because he still loves New Orleans. So Cam is going to join us tomorrow night,
Oh,
and
great, great.
we're going to talk. Cam actually ran for the mayor of Chicago
Hmm.
in the last election. So we're gonna have an interesting show, at least for the first half tomorrow night, and talk about Chicago and Illinois and Cam and everything else. So that'll be really interesting. So I hope you all will tune in. Love to hear from you tonight. We're going to cover a lot of different topics, kind of catch up on
Yeah.
some things in the news the last week or so. 504 582 9422. We would love for you to call in and weigh in. And Kerry, might as well let's stick on sports just to begin the
Sure.
show. Because Jeff Duncan, who I greatly admire, I think he's one of the very best. I think he's the best writer, sports writer in all of New Orleans.
Yeah.
I think wrote a very interesting front page article today talking about the fact that we in New Orleans, we love to hold on to status quo and what we have. But he says, as it relates to the future of the Saints and the head coach, we just can't do that.
No.
That, Coach Rizzi has done a very admirable job. And I agree with that over the last several weeks,
Sure.
when he was named the interim head coach. But the reality is the Saints have a lot of issues beyond just the coaching front.
Yes.
And, Jeff's position is we really need to pretty much clean house and
I agree.
restructure everything. And, again, that doesn't mean Coach Rizzi needs to be, thrown out of the
No.
coaching staff because he's an excellent special teams coach and has really done an excellent job. But I think for the good of the fans, for the good of the team, I think this is probably the off season where the Saints need to take a look at everything from the front office all the way down to coaching and
Absolutely.
really make the change I think the fans want.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. We need to start from top to bottom. And the issue with first, I'll start with Coach Rizzi. I think Coach Rizzi has to stay with the Saints, but and be the special teams coach, and I give him a real honest promotion of assistant head coach because he's done a fantastic job. The players like him. To lose his energy and his verve from the sideline would be a mistake. I don't think he's the total head coach that we're looking for, but I think he should stay with the staff. I definitely believe that. I do think that we need some changes in the front office. I think we definitely need some people to step down, step aside, step up, whatever you want to call it, and get some new, fresh blood in. The game is turning very much more into younger executives, younger coaches, and that type of thing to relate to the players and to relate to the modern game. And some things of being around for a long time are not working anymore in the NFL. And I think this is one of those teams that got stagnant and kept trying to just say, we'll run it back with some of the same core people. And some of the players, Ernie, I'll just say this. Some of the players, they have given their life, they've given everything to us, but it's time for some of these people to retire. It really is. I mean, and there's no shame in any of that. It's just your production is down. You're an older player. And I mean, this is a young man's game, as we all know. The average player lasts 3 years in the NFL. So it's, it's
Yeah,
definitely time
it's
to clean house. The fandom
yeah.
is so strong. I mean, I think that we can't go through much more of this without starting to lose some of the fan support. And I know that Miss Benson and the rest don't want to lose that. And we have a great fan base, and we shouldn't make that happen.
Yeah, I mean the Saints got older, and look, in many ways, this season was an anomaly because I've never seen a team have so many injuries. In
Yes,
fact, the irony of this is the two teams in all of sports this year that I have never seen injuries pile up like they have. Both of those teams are in New Orleans.
right,
Uh,
right,
one being the Saints and the other being the Pelicans. It is
absolutely, yes,
truly unbelievable what has happened to the rosters of both of these teams. And, from the Saints' perspective, year in and year out, they were always up against the salary cap, and
right,
they were able to, expertly maneuver it so that they never had to do a total rebuild. But I think it caught up this year because what you saw is a lack of depth.
right,
When the offensive lineman went down,
right.
there was a big drop off between starters and second stringers. And, I think it really showed this year. And, the Saints are going to need to get that salary cap healthy again. That's not easy to do.
Yeah,
There's still, as I understand, still a little bit towards the bottom of the league in that. Um, but, where they stand right now, we'll have to see how they finish the season. I mean, right now they are a top 10 pick.
right.
Um, and, with that, the Saints are going to have to identify first and foremost, I think, what is the future of Derek Carr?
Yes,
Is he the quarterback for the next 3, 4, 5 years? And if so, they may have the luxury of not going at the quarterback level. But, I have to say this, and people can agree or disagree. I don't know that they have, other than Derek Carr, I don't know that they have a number one quarterback on this roster. I think Spencer Rattler came in and opened some eyes the
yeah,
second half of the game Sunday. I think he was a clear, better quarterback than Hayner was.
yeah,
But you have to kind of project that out. Is he a number one quarterback in the NFL for a team? And
yeah,
for me, just eyeball, I don't think so, which means that you got to assess Derek Carr's age, his health,
right.
and determine, is there a quarterback in that top 10 that you really like? And if so, you may have to go for it.
Yeah, I actually looking at the draft order and everything and who's coming out. I don't really think there is a real, star quarterback other than a couple of people who'll be long gone by number 10. And so I think that what they need to do is what you said earlier is shore up the lines first with their draft picks, particularly the offensive line, because a strong offensive line, I say this all the time, the offensive line is the most important part of a football team. If you have a good offensive line, you can have a good quarterback who's mediocre, could be good if they can protect them and make the run work. A good offensive line can nullify defense, everything. So that's really crucial in my book. I think the real other problem with the Saints, and I've said this online and everywhere, I think that they don't have anybody who knows how to develop quarterbacks, including Derek Carr. I think they need a real quarterbacks coach. And my suggestion, I've said this 1,000 times, is that they should hire Drew Brees, pay him a ridiculous amount of money to be a consultant, quarterback coach, whatever. He doesn't have to work all the time, but some of the bad decisions that people make on this team and some of the reads and the different things like that, they talk about wanting to play like him, but they don't play like him, including Carr. Like Carr running and jumping out of bounds is something that he needs to be coached to say, you're too valuable to jump out of bounds and break your hand and not be able to play, because you cost us that game and several other games from being hurt in strange ways. So, I mean, I think that those things are very crucial. But as you said, it's time for a total overhaul. The fans will not have a problem if they're sure that you're going in the right direction. You built this team before years ago to be correct and to not worry about dead money or cap space or whatever, because that happens to everybody at some point. And I think at some point, the perfect example is Sean Payton in Denver. Sean Payton has a huge salary cap problem because of Russell Wilson being gone. So he takes a rookie quarterback, he coaches up the rest of the team and a bunch of people who cost nothing, and he's going to the playoffs. So I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to have to, first analyze. It looks like the top level quarterbacks are Cam Ward from Miami and Sanders from Colorado.
Right.
That seems to be consensus of the two top quarterbacks. They probably won't be there.
No, they won't.
At number 10 or 9 but as you saw, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, who he drafted, was really not in that top 5 last year.
No.
And they did the story over the weekend. I thought this was a pretty cool story. Apparently, Sean Payton and the Broncos gave some kind, like the playbook to Bo Nix at 8:00 at night and said, we're meeting with you tomorrow morning at 8:00. We want to hear what you think. And apparently Bo Nix is a really smart guy, and he basically, memorized the playbook and understood it. And he just blew him away the next morning with his intellect, which is a pretty interesting, fun story.
They said the same
for a quarterback.
They said the same thing about Jaden Daniels having the kind of memory and that kind of command of what they gave him. The other thing about that, which I think is really crucial, is Bo Nix and a few of the other quarterbacks who are doing well, who are newer in the league, played for a long time. Bo Nix played for 5 years. They have a lot of
went to
games.
Auburn, went to Oregon. Yeah, he played a lot in college.
They've had a lot of, these guys who play for 1 year or, 1 or 2 years, and don't have that experience and everything. It's really hard for them to make this transition and make it comfortably. And I think that's a big factor in all this. I really believe that. I think when they saw him, they saw he was an older guy, and Peyton saw he was a smart older guy and said, I can work with this guy, and that was what he did.
Yeah, no, well, it's turned out pretty well because the Broncos are headed to the playoffs, and if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix would probably be Rookie of the Year.
Absolutely.
Because he's had a phenomenal season. I think it's going to be really interesting where the Saints go with the head coaching selection, because my personal opinion, I think they needed that kind of strong man type of person that comes in, and they maybe could have got that with a Bill Belichick. Obviously, he's out of the market now and going to college at North Carolina. The hot commodities are the assistant coaches, especially the two coaches from the Detroit Lions. Everybody wants Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, and and Aaron Glenn, who's the defensive coordinator. He actually coached in New Orleans. Those are the two ones, but there's a number of teams that are going to be looking for head coaches. The Bears at the top of the list right now. So it's going to be pretty interesting in what direction they go.
I tell you who I think
be an interesting offseason.
I tell you who I think they should go with. This is a name that's kind of dropped off the map, but it's perfect for New Orleans. He is Dan Campbell light to me, but I think they should do Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel would be a perfect coach in New Orleans to coach up people. He's a tough guy. He's a gritty guy. he did miracles in Tennessee with nothing, and with a team that could build and give him something to work with. There's no limit to me of what he could do. I think he should be looked at.
That's an interesting name. He's definitely been bantered about. You know, he kind of got unceremoniously let go in Tennessee for a team that really, you're right. I mean, is not at the top of the league in terms of their talent level. But yeah, he would fit the bill in terms of that kind of strongman type of leader that would come in. You know, may want more control on football ops and the draft and things of that nature. But I think that would be a very well received. And then, you know, the other option is to go with one of these, you know, genius offensive coordinators that, you know, that comes from the Shanahan tree. And, you know, there's a lot of guys like that in the league. What? And so that I think you'd have two kind of totally different types of hires.
Yeah, I think that our offensive coordinator, I think that he goes a little bit too much for it, but I think the guy that they have now was a highly sought after offensive coordinator, Kubiak, and I think they should hang on to him. I really believe him with a strong head coach and some good picks and some good free agents. I think they could do something. I mean, I really do think that if they could, like you said, and avoid some of the injuries, that a lot of the injuries go along with age and time too. But if they could get just a team that could be on the field and together, I think they could do something. I really believe they could rebuild this team pretty quickly and you know, and make a youth movement. I mean, you have to do that. Everybody in the NFL does that at some point. They have to turn the page.
You know, Kerry, we may have that talent right in the same studio that you're working in right now, behind the glass.
Okay.
Because is there a better football mind at WBOK than our producer Jazz?
No, he knows it all. I'm just saying things he told me before.
All right. We need to take a break, you think, or are we good for a little bit?
We need to take a break. Quick break.
All right. Back in a minute. 504-582-9422. Love to hear from you.
Find us online. Did you know that you can now listen to your favorite show whenever you want? How? Just go to www.wbok1230.com. Click on the Talk tab and select your favorite show. There you'll see your favorite host and the show from each day. And be sure to follow us on Facebook at WBOK1230AM, Instagram at WBOK.1230, and TikTok at WBOK1230AM. Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts, with over 100 career-focused degrees and certificates that are affordable, flexible, and transferable. We can give you the knowledge and skills to succeed. Start your post-high school education at Delgado, or let us help you advance your career. Spring registration is Wednesday, December 18th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the City Park campus, the West Bank campus, or the Sidney Collier site. Visit dcc.edu to learn more.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
This is Andronica Morris, host of Put Housing First. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, where we will discuss how housing affects every aspect of our lives and what's necessary, what's needed to guarantee housing for all. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock as we dig down deep onto the issues that affect all of us.
Sunday mornings are reserved for a good word on WBOK. This Sunday, be sure to catch Dr. Kevin Stevens Sr., the pastor of Christian Unity Church, for service and a powerful, full, inspiring word. Listen live every Sunday morning right here on WBOK.
Are you ready to make a difference in your community? Join me, Randy Chambliss, and my co-hosts Dion Dana and Barry Mallory on Helping the Village Radio Show, where we raise awareness, advocate for real solutions, and coordinate supportive services to prevent and reduce homelessness. We're connecting the dots to build stronger, thriving communities. Tune in every first and third Saturday at 2 p.m. as we collaborate with local leaders, real estate investors, and nonprofits, working together to provide hope and opportunity for those in need. Helping the Village Radio Show, empowering change one community at a time.
Hey, this is Michael Cooper of Confunction, and I'd like to wish all of the WBOK listeners a happy and safe holiday.
WBOK 1230 AM online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carrie Show with Arnie Philco and Carrie Grant.
All right, we are back.
We are back.
So, Terry, before we go any further, I just want to kind of acknowledge and offer condolences to a couple different folks. I was informed earlier today that Rodney Henry passed away. People may not know the name, but they probably know the person and face. Rodney was Mr. Benson's really personal assistant for years and years. And I came to the Saints in 2000. He was one of the first people I met, and just one of the kindest men I've met. He left the Saints for a while after Katrina. There were some issues. He came back. There was some more issues. He actually, won a judgment against the Saints about 6 years ago. But I was told by somebody in the organization that he had passed today, and I want to offer my condolences because he was a really great man and a real New Orleanian. And the other, Carrie, that while you were gone was this absolutely tragic story of a couple young women that were shoplifting in Metairie, and there was a police chase. And the Jefferson Sheriff's Police Office stopped the chase at some point, but the women that were trying to flee got off at, I'm told, at 610 and St. Bernard Avenue, struck a car, and in that car, were two young high school students from the West Bank who lost their life, and just an absolutely tragic story of two young women who had everything in front of them, and just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, lost their life. And I don't know them personally, I don't know their families, but I mean, your heart bleeds when you read a story like that.
Yeah, these hot pursuit issues are not good. I mean, there's too many different policies on that to begin with on that side of it, but the whole idea of people driving like maniacs and whatever. I mean, the car is a very dangerous thing. This morning was a classic example of that. The fog was very thick out on the causeway, and very similar type situations where people going too fast, nobody slowing down when the weather's bad or whatever. So, this is very tragic, and it's unfortunate. These were truly innocents who had nothing to do with the situation that was being handled. At least one of the people, from what I saw, I haven't followed the story whole, like you said, I wasn't here, but at least one of the people turned themselves in. So that's good in that sense.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of banter on this. I mean, the JPSO Sheriff's Department has different policies than NOPD, apparently, relative to chases like this. Again, from everything that I understand of the story, JPSO didn't go all the way, to the exit. They had cut the search off. They had cut the chase off. The problem is that the young ladies that, were in the car, I mean, they wouldn't probably know that. So they thought, and I'm guessing that they thought they were still being chased, and they got off at an exit recklessly and plowed into another car. And, that the rest of the story is what it is. Again, this is not one that I think we should. I think it is one that we should investigate, and we should know exactly what occurred in order that we can do better in the future when you have these inter-parish type of situations.
Right.
But the reality is, I certainly don't want to be casting blame on different parties. I just feel so bad for the families, and you know, may the young women rest in peace, and hopefully their families can get some peace, you know, during what is obviously a very difficult holiday season.
Yes.
It leads me, Kerry, to something I do want to talk with you about and spend a little bit of time, which is two things that are related to each other in some ways. One is the very tragic school shooting yesterday in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yes.
But I also want to relay it to some of our gun policies here in Louisiana and specifically in New Orleans. I know Madison well because I went to school there at the University of Wisconsin. It's truly unbelievable. Do you realize that in this year alone, just this year, there have been 971 school shootings in the United States?
Wow.
That is, when I saw that number, it was like, no, it's got to be an error. It's got to be 97 or 9 or 971 cases. All I can say is, my God, when are we going to stop? When are we going to come together as a country and say this is unacceptable and changes to our gun laws have to be made? So your thoughts first of all on that, and then I want to talk of how that relates in our own community, especially with the concealed carry law that the state now has.
Yeah, it's a very tragic situation. I was just looking at some stuff about this very story, but the other part that is frightening is, as we said in the story 2 minutes ago, a lot of these issues now are with girls. So it's the girl shoplifters, the girl, there was a girl shooter in this situation. And, it's bad enough, like you said, that we have 900 of these things, but now it seems like the females are having issues as well. The other part of this is it's very clear that in every one of these instances, particularly in the schools, it's not only the gun availability, which is terrible, but it's also very much so people who have some serious issues who need to be dealt with in a certain kind of way. The red flag laws and all those kind of things that keep getting shot down could probably prevent some of these things. And like you said, Arnie, this is a big country and it's been a long year, but 900 times at schools is really totally unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I just, again, I know we have the Second Amendment. I'm a proponent of the Second Amendment. I'm not opposing it, but the reality is how much more tragedy do we have to have as a country before, Democrats and Republicans? I mean, you could still be, you're pro-gun. You could still be pro-Second Amendment, but look, many of us have kids and grandkids in school. I mean, it scares you. You should never worry when your child leaves home that they may not come back that night. And, yesterday, I mean, I think this has been pretty publicized. It was a second grader, second grader that called 911 to let them know what was happening. I mean, I can't even imagine somebody that young, and the scars that person may carry.
Yes. And
it's just,
and Arnie, I have to say this, my wife used to live in Connecticut, which was very close to Sandy Hook. And, she knew some people who were involved with that school. And it's what you said. I mean, these people go to these schools and these little kids and they're ripped apart by these guns that, are not even made for hunting or any of the stuff that people try and tell you. They're weapons of war, basically. And it's just very tragic. And that poor kid, I mean, who called in, great thing that the kid called in and had the wherewithal to do that. But this kid is going to be traumatized forever.
Yeah. Well, I can only hope. And again, I'm probably being very naive because we've already had 900 plus and nothing's changing. So I don't, was it going to take 2,000 a year before somebody opens their eyes? I just look, I would hope Democrats and Republicans under the new administration could figure out some common ground here on these red flag laws to address some of the problems. Okay. Yes. Nobody's asking that guns be taken away. No, I mean, that's just rhetoric, political rhetoric.
Yeah.
but as a country, we're the worst in the world. I mean,
Absolutely.
when I travel to Europe for my trips and business and that, you don't ever worry about guns. You just don't. And it's really only in America right now, and a handful of other countries that this is an issue. So, Kerry, let me carry this forward, and let's talk about the concealed carry law that we have here. And as everybody probably knows, in Louisiana, you have the right to conceal your weapons.
Mhm.
There are some areas that have been exempted out from that you cannot do that. But one of the areas that's not exempted is the French Quarter.
Yeah.
And we saw just a couple weeks ago what could have been, I mean, it was a horrific situation, where there was a shooting outside of I guess the Brendan Steakhouse and
Yeah.
Acme. People know where that is,
Yeah.
right as you get into the French Quarter. We could have had 100 people murdered that day.
Right.
Okay. And the problem is that the NOPD right now have lost the ability, because of this law, to stop people and ask them when they see a gun protruding and all of that. And people may remember this if I have this right. About a year ago, we did create kind of a very interesting exception, because there is a no gun area around schools.
Right.
And they created this exception and said, well, the 8th district, which is the police department in the French Quarter, it really is a school zone because there's a school close. Okay, that is that. But we're about to have thousands and thousands of visitors come to New Orleans. Super Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Mardi Gras. This just seems like an idiotic law that we can't carve out an exemption for the one area of our city where you're going to have all of these tourists from out of state. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think you're right about that. I've never understood the concealed carry law, because if I'm a criminal and I have a gun that is not legal or anything like that, I can walk around just like somebody who's a legally permitted gun, and they can't ask either one of us anything. So that makes no sense to me. If you're anti-crime, guy or whatever these people are, and also, and I think it's very dangerous. I really believe this. I know a lot about guns, know how to handle guns, and have qualified with guns before. But I just don't like the idea of just the average citizen thinking that, I'm going to draw down on somebody because I got a gun in my waistband. That's as dangerous as some criminal guy chasing some other guy that he's got a beef with. So, I don't know what the fascination and the machoism is with guns for people, but it's a very dangerous thing to have. But you're right. This law needs to have some tempering to it for just some common sense things that need to happen. And Arnie, you said something that's very true. Nobody says that they don't want people to own guns, do whatever, have guns, go hunting, whatever the people do with these things, go target practicing or whatever. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying they're coming in your house to take anything away from you. A true gun owner, a person who is a responsible gun owner, should want biometric triggers and things that make them safe and everything. They should be in the forefront of that, because they're supposedly the people who don't want to lose this right. So they should be more on top of that and not get into the whole mix of, it's all about taking things away from you. We put fear into people, and then people get their back up about things. So I agree with you. I mean, I think that if we can't logically say that, Canal Street and the French Quarter are off limits, because that's where all our tourists gather. A lot of people from New Orleans don't gather downtown or whatever, but a lot of other people do, and they're not coming here to do that. They're coming here to have fun. They're not coming here to dodge bullets and run around. If the police could be effective in making that not happen.
No, absolutely. And look, Governor Landry has taken the position that, New Orleans is a jewel, and he's come in here and, he's brought in the state police. He's done other things where there's been more state involvement in the city of New Orleans and probably in the last 20 years. But if that's your mantra, if you truly view New Orleans as a special place. I mean, it doesn't help to have shootings in the French Quarter
No, not at all.
when folks from around the country and around the world are coming to our city. So this is just, again, when the concealed carry law passed, and they even eliminated some of the training requirements and all of that.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't use the two words common sense. Some of this stuff truly does not make any sense.
Right.
And I hope that our lawmakers, when they get back to Baton Rouge in April and go through the session, that they can go back and try to carve out again some exceptions to the concealed carry in some of the more, touristy areas, at least of New Orleans. It's hard to believe we have that. All right,
Yes.
So next topic. We're solving the world today, Terry. I just want to let you know.
Absolutely.
All issues will be resolved by 7 o'clock tonight at WBOK.
Well, one thing about that, Arnie, and I just have to say this about this show, one of the reasons why I'm encouraged about doing it is just to get out there a lot more common sense things. And I know we have a lot of political strife and everything, but people can actually come to common ground on a lot of things. I think that sometimes they don't, and sometimes the answers are really simple.
Yeah, it is. I think that's really a good point. We just need some common sense on some of the things that we do. A week or two ago, we talk about tragic stories in guns. Mm-hmm. If you remember, there was a young child in the central city who was with her mother, and apparently the child went into another room, and I don't know if the woman was a stepmother but she had some relationship with the mother and the child. Uh-huh. Well, a gun was left, and the child picked it up and shot herself.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that you can't have these. We have enough issues in our community not to lose innocent, human, precious life because of stupid things or negligent things.
And see, and Arnie, the thing that gets me about that is, like I said, with biometric triggers and everything, where only the gun responds to you, the person who's it's programmed to. That technology is available. It's not some dream or anything like that. And if I'm the gun lobby or gun owner or whatever, I don't know why I'm not advocating for that, for the very reason you said. I don't want to have on my conscience that some 2-year-old shot themselves, because we have the technology for them not to shoot themselves. It doesn't make any sense. It should be done. And I think all gun owners and everybody would say, well, I don't want a little kid to kill himself with my gun. I really believe they would say that.
Yeah. And I think some of these things you're talking about, you can get for free. The city of New Orleans, right? Didn't the health department offer to provide those to citizens to keep their guns under control and in safe spaces?
They have gun locks that they give away and all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about even something that the gun manufacturer can put on the gun. There's 1,000 ways to not have what you said happen.
Yeah. Well, let's hope some people with some common sense that are decision makers can get involved. I want to move to another issue. I know it's a little complicated and also a little controversial. So let me first say that one of the owners of WBOK is Troy Henry.
Yes.
Somebody that I like a lot. I think he's done great things in our city and is certainly doing great things in New Orleans East with the Bayou Phoenix project. But over the last several days here, there has been a lot of controversy involving the garbage contract for the city of New Orleans. So let's kind of give a little bit of background on this. So Troy and his company were awarded a contract, awarded by the city of New Orleans by the mayor's office, that I think had maybe 7 or 8 years. I forgot the exact length. It's one of those 7 or 8 years. And the contract was awarded, but was not yet approved by the city council, which under a new law passed a year or so ago, has the right to approve administration contracts.
Right.
Over a certain,
Yeah,
I think, over $1 million.
Yeah, in multi-year, right? Yes.
In multi-year. So the city council did not approve this contract formally. And the reason was, there's a couple of reasons, but I think the biggest reason was there was a dispute along the way between Mr. Henry as the prime contractor and Richards Disposal as the subcontractor. There was a disagreement between them on what was going to be paid. The council became aware of it and took the position that we were not going to approve it. In the meantime, and that contract was supposed to go into effect December 23, a week from yesterday, right in the midst of the holiday season and big events coming to the. This is, by the way, this is not citywide. This is for the French Quarter, the downtown development district. So more of our commercial tourist areas. So when this dispute came up, obviously the city can't have a situation where nobody's picking up garbage. So the city went, and the mayor and the administration went and awarded an emergency contract for 1 year to somebody that we in New Orleans are familiar with, Sidney Torres.
Yes.
Who, after Katrina, for those that remember it, and certainly you and I do, Kerry,
yes.
Sidney and his company, had the contract for the French Quarter. The marketing slogan was, lemonly fresh. And it was actually, it was lemonly fresh. I remember. Right. But he was awarded that contract for a year. In the meantime, Mr. Henry filed suit against the city council, saying that the council did not have the authority to reject what the mayor's administration had negotiated. That lawsuit went in front of a judge yesterday, and Judge Paulette Iron ruled in favor of Mr. Henry. And the council's attorney said that the council is going to appeal that under the basis that the council does have the authority under the ordinance that gives them the right to approve. So after all is said and done, and I know this is complicated for people, after all is said and done, it's a bit of a mess here because basically you have a contract awarded to Torres, who's going to have a 1-year deal to clean the French Quarter and the downtown area. In the meantime, you have Troy Henry has prevailed at this point that says that his contract needs to go forward. That's going to be appealed. So you can't have two contracts. I mean, we as a city can't afford an emergency contract and a contract, for the same period of time. So I'm not sure where this ends up. I think the resolution might be Torres gets his contract for a year. He does his work. If Troy Henry prevails, maybe they move his term back 1 year. So he takes it over December 23 of 25. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I do know is we can't have the same two contracts in place on who's cleaning the French Quarter. No. I hope that explains it in some intelligent way, Kerry.
Yeah, you did a great job. The issue now is very much so who's picking up on the 23rd, and I think who's picking up on the 23rd is Sidney Torres for right now. So let's hope there's no injunction against him doing that because we don't need to not pick up the garbage. And all the rest of these legal issues can be worked out over time because they're not going to be resolved quickly at all.
No. I mean, if the city council wants to appeal, an appeal takes time and you're not going to get this resolved immediately. And as best as I understood the ruling yesterday, I don't think there was a temporary injunction or a permanent injunction issued that would stop the Torres contract. So it's just an interesting battle. I mean, in many ways, you have yet another battle between the mayor of New Orleans and the city council.
Right.
I certainly can understand, I can understand the legal rationale of the council that there was an ordinance. The council has a role to play. If they don't approve it, the mayor can't go forward on a contract, to have legal effect. But I also understand, the argument that Mr. Henry's bringing, which is, contracts have traditionally been awarded by mayors, not city councils.
Yeah.
So you have a real test here, and
Absolutely.
And I'm not taking sides either way. Like you, I think for the most part, what the citizens want to know is midnight next Monday. That the French Quarter and the downtown area are going to have somebody picking up garbage and cleaning it.
Right. Yes, and that's what's most important.
So we will see how this plays out. It's very interesting because we are entering a period of time here where there's going to be a lot of people coming to our city.
We're going to take a short break, and I'll see everybody tomorrow.
Hey, this is D. Riley from the 90s Hits R&B Jams. Make sure you listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday night from 7 until 9 p.m. I'll be giving you the best R&B jams from the 90s. That's right, all your favorites and more. With me, D. Riley, your host of the 90s Hits, right here on WBOK 1230 AM. Or listen online at WBOK1230.com. WBOK, the station you listen to longer.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
The National World War II Museum. Located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans, the National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present the Keeping You Well Cafe, 60 minutes of LCMC Health, where doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of health care in the New Orleans area, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. Over the next few months, LCMC Health will join WBOK and local businesses to answer your health and wellness questions. Through this partnership, LCMC Health will provide resources to the community, including subject matter experts from the hospitals that will share expertise on health concerns and wellness practices to help you live your best life. Tune in to WBOK during the last hour of the reality check, or catch us at lcmchealth.org and follow us on social media.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Entergy New Orleans is creating stronger connections throughout our city. That commitment goes beyond strengthening our power grid. We're also investing in every neighborhood in the city: CBD, Uptown, Gerttown, New Orleans East, Bywater, and Mid-City. We're there, working for you. From STEM education to cultural events and community outreach programs, Entergy employees volunteer thousands of hours every year because this is our home too.
New Schools for New Orleans would like to wish all of our city's educators and families a happy holidays. As you prepare, remember to connect with family and friends, reflect on the fall semester, and set new goals for the new year. We appreciate everything you do.
Hi, this is Zoe in sales at WBOK. I'm wishing you and your family a happy holiday.
WBOK 1230 AM. Better pay attention. Powered by Cox Business.
The Arnie and Carrie Show with Arnie Philco and Carrie Grant.
All right. I am back. My partner in crime here, Carrie Grant, left a little bit early tonight. He has a holiday engagement, which there's a lot of those going on over the next week or so, different Christmas parties and holiday parties. It's a great time of the year. just kind of want to close the show out with a couple things. One of the really cool things I think, again, in this holiday season is, you run into people that you haven't seen in a long time. And I was at a Christmas party over the weekend, and I ran into somebody that I know, probably many in the WBOK audience know, Lloyd Dennis. And I haven't seen Lloyd in candidly a long time. He is an expert photographer, but the thing that I remember him and admire him so much for was the mentoring that he did in creating the Silverback Society here. Where young men, and especially I think primarily African American young men, were mentored by adult men, and that is just, it's so important in our city. One of the most important things. On an earlier show today on Gerard Stevens' show, he spent some time talking about the importance of getting our youth away from New Orleans for a while, sometimes for a day or two or three, and go see other parts of the country and learn about the history. And that is just so important. I can't say that if we need that much more in our community for our kids, and for a community where there are a lot of single household families, for young men to be able to have mentors that can guide them on school and education, conflict resolution. It's an amazing thing to watch. I will tell you that when I moved here a couple of years into my tenure with the Saints, I joined an organization called Each One Save One, which is a truly phenomenal mentoring organization. I was assigned a young man from Fort Shea High School, and we kind of looked at each other the first meeting, like, what would we have in common? Here's this young African American freshman at Fort Shea, and here I'm a white businessman, and I will tell you, we became the best of friends. And that young man, who I'm not afraid to say his name, James Sam, is part of my family, and I love him just as I love my kids. And that's what mentoring can do. It can create a bond where an adult can provide their life experiences and their expertise, and impart that to a young boy or girl, and give them reason to hope, give them something to aspire to, some dreams. And Lloyd has done that for years with Silverback, and I just want to commend him. It was really great to run into him fortuitously over the weekend, and to see that he's in good health and good spirits, and still continuing to do the good work. And I hope others that are listening, if you aren't a mentor, it's easy to be a mentor. I mean, first of all, there's many more organizations, a lot of church affiliate organizations, but other organizations like Silverbacks or others that would love to have you. And yeah, maybe at the first time it's a little intimidating when you are paired with a mentee, but the reality is there's nothing better, and you will literally be changing somebody's life forever and giving them hope and vision and aspiration and everything else. So I really encourage people to do that. And, I said on the call earlier today, one of the things I'm most proud of is for more than a decade, we've taken over 1,000 New Orleans youth outside of New Orleans on kind of civil rights / sports trips. And we would take these kids to Alabama. We would generally start in Selma, have the kids walk across the Pettus Bridge, famous bridge, obviously, in the Civil Rights Movement, bring them to Birmingham, let them see the Civil Rights Institute, the 16th Street Baptist Church. And then I would usually combine it with something fun and sports-oriented, either bring them to Rickwood Field, which is the oldest baseball field in the country in Birmingham, where they used to have both white baseball and black baseball, both played different times of the day. It's a fascinating venue. And also we took the kids to the University of Alabama football complex, which is an amazing thing. We're going to continue that program. I've set into works to renew that program this spring. We will bring it to the attention of our listening audience on WBOK, because we would love to have some of our listeners and their children, especially of high school age, be able to participate in that trip once again. But I could tell you from the 10 or more trips we've done, it's amazing to watch these kids learn and be interested in history, and it just brings it to life when you do that. So some good things and some really good people in New Orleans, like Lloyd and many others, you know, who are trying to make a difference in young people's lives, which is all for the positive. It's been a great show tonight. Tomorrow night again, I hope you will join us. We are going to have Mr. Cam Buckner, New Orleanian, moved away to Chicago, ran for the mayor of Chicago last year, is a powerful state legislature in the state of Illinois. We're going to be able to talk about Cam and his life and his New Orleans experience and some other good things. So I hope you'll join us. It's an honor to be with you every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. We will see you tomorrow night, New Orleans.